okay, but then some things didn't go your way. Tell us about what happened there at Atlanta, David.
Man, Atlanta was awesome, man. We're not having any practice, no qualifying. Our Whataburger Toyota Super was, man, when they dropped the green flag, that thing was wanting to swap ends on me. It was pretty loose, and I was trying to stay on the lead lap, and I was passing people on the outside, but man, it was I had to be ahead of the race car, meaning I knew it wanted to spin out on me, but you still got to race the heck out of it. And man, we managed to stay on the lead lap. We got the competition caution came out. We got to tighten that thing up, and man, I'll tell you what, after they tightened her up, man, I think I passed. I think I went from 36th or 35th or wherever we were to about 19th. I mean, that thing was just unbelievable how good our race car was. And unfortunately, I later on in the race, we had a pit stop. We made some adjustments, and I had a car passing me on the inside. I didn't realize that somebody got a good run off turn 4, and I came up a little bit, and they just barely had a bumper there, and I hooked myself and got turned into the wall. And there's nobody to blame but myself, you know what I mean? But it's been a long time since I wrecked going straight, you know what I mean? I was on straightaway, so I little disappointed with myself, but anyway, it's just racing. We were racing hard, but man, my Whataburger Toyota was pretty awesome, and I just wish we could have finished the whole race, because I really thought we were going to have a great race. And man, it just it was a fun race, man. Just a crazy day, really.
And then you got to do something, David, that you really don't see happen a lot anymore. You got to fill in with your teammate CJ McLaughlin after he had some issues with heat exhaustion. Tell us a little bit about that and getting to log some laps in the 66.
Yeah, after I hit the wall, I drove it back down pit road, and my team, Johnny Root, and they were looking at everything and thought we were going to be able to, maybe put a lot of tape on it, cut some stuff off, and continue. But unfortunately, our right front spindle had broken. It broke. And so I pulled behind pit road wall, and when they looked at the damage a little more, and they said, "Hey, David, we're not going to be able to continue." So man, I got out of it. NASCAR was there, and they said, "Hey, David, you need to go over to the infield care center." So I went to the infield care center. That's kind of our protocol in NASCAR. If you're involved in an accident, you have to go to the infield care center. So I went there and did that procedure. Got back to the garage area, was in our race hauler. I was taking my Whataburger uniform off, and next thing you know, Carl Long was up there and said, "Hey, man, we sure need you to get in that 66 car." I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, the AC system in that car wasn't working right." And CJ, the driver, CJ McLaughlin, he had overheated a little bit, and that was easy to do because, man, it was pretty humid, pretty hot, and without that AC blowing on him, it was I think he did the right thing by pulling in and jumping out. So man, I was able to jump in that 66 car. It was a Ford, and run the last, I think, 70 laps. And man, I couldn't believe how good that car was. I mean, I jumped in that car, and I believe it was several laps down because they had a plug wire that had fallen off the spark plug, and they lost several laps. But I was not aware of that. But when I got in the race car, and man, we got to running, man, that thing was fast. I mean, we passed 17, 18 race cars. And after the race was over with, I was talking to Carl Long and the crew chiefs, and they said, "Hey, man, you're passing cars that we shouldn't have been passing." I mean, we had some good race cars Saturday. It's just unfortunate that CJ and myself, our finish results doesn't reflect that. You know what I mean? But man, I was excited that we had good race cars, and that's all you can ask for is a good handling race car. But man, what a day. I was madder than hell at myself. I mean, you're not supposed to, you're going to wreck. Why don't you wreck into corners? You know what I mean? Not going straight. You know what I mean? So I kind of look at myself, and I don't have anybody to blame but myself, and but anyway, what an emotional roller coaster day. But I was glad to be able to finish up the race in the 66 and talk about, compare a Toyota Supra against a Ford product that we had out there. And I think being able to drive both their cars in the same race really gave us a little bit of some knowledge moving forward. So it was a very interesting day. You know what I mean?
Sure, Dave. And the other thing too, like you said, hitting the wall there on the front stretch. Remember Joe Nemechek saying years ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but when he would crash in the corner on the outside retaining wall, he would say it was similar to getting like punched in the face, like a really bad jab. The way you hit the front stretch wall, is there anything you could compare that to? Like maybe the everyday person would be like, oh yeah, I know what that would kind of feel like. Is there anything that immediately comes to mind?
Man, not really. I mean, there's nothing fun about wrecking. I hate, it's part of what we do. When you do this, as long as we've done it, that kind of stuff's going to happen. You just try to keep it to a minimum because, man, we're all competitive. We want to win and want to do the best we can do. When you're wrecking, first of all, you can't make your race cars better if they're all tore up. And the second thing, you're not getting your sponsor any coverage when you're in the garage and not on the racetrack. It's hard to compare what that feels like. It was just, when you hit the wall as hard as I hit it, only thing I'm thinking, man, I hope we're not damaging the front suspension so I can continue on, you know what I mean? And once we figured out that it was damaged to the point where you couldn't race it anymore, and you go in the infield care center and, they run through all their procedures and they're checking your body out and checking your pulse and your heart rate and, your oxygen level. And, they said, hey, Mr. Starr, do you hurt anywhere? I said, well, hey, I'm good, but do you have anything for hurt feelings? You know what I mean? Because my feelings were hurt, you know what I mean? And they got a good laugh out of that, and off I went, and so anyway, it's just it's a feeling. It's a horrible feeling, because right. Man, you want to race and do the best you can. I never go to a race thinking I'm going to wreck, but it's just, you do it long enough like we have, and it's going to happen. It's part of what we do,
David, have you ever changed manufacturers in the middle of a race before?
Man, I never have. It's been a while. I was just thinking about that, after the race was over with, and thank God I never have, because you don't want to start a race on one manufacturer and jump to another one, because there's a lot of circumstances involved in that. You know what I mean? And so I'm glad to say that I don't think I have done it in the past, but I don't believe I've jumped out of one manufacturer into a different one. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a first, but it was good to feel the difference in the downforce level, the handling of the race car, and feel the difference in the underneath the hood in the engine. So I talked to both crew chiefs. We had a little meeting after the race was over with, and I think it's going to help our competition, our overall performance at Atlanta Motor Sports, you know what I mean? And during during something that was bad, something positive came out of it, and I think it'll help us in the future. So yeah, it wasn't too bad.